Thinking about the sort of unpredictable nature of things and the ability to be flexible, I'd like to get your perspective on the effect of the war in Iran. What is that going to be happening? What effect that's going to have on European industry? For people at the ECB, there's a lot of questions about the impact on inflation. For BMW, what has been the immediate impact, and what is your greatest concern for the business and for the economy?
Right. Any war in this world is utmost unfortunate. But currently, we must observe the developments very carefully. The situation is volatile, so every day we have a look at our supply chains, of course. But at this point in time, we don't have any interruptions towards our production or in the markets. But currently, it's too early, and everything else would be a speculation.
And at what point do you get concerned that it could have a bearing on your supply chains, on the deliveries of cargoes and the energy input costs for suppliers that could then trickle down to BMW?
We currently don't see that because the supply chains we depend on are not in the focus of current blockages. So currently we don't see that. And if that is going to happen, we will respond like we've always responded in the past years. We had in 2020 Corona year after, we had supply chain issues on the semiconductor side. We have energy issues, and so we will respond as always. We will have a very close look all the way from raw materials to the final production plant, and we kind of trained that muscle to have a very, very quick overview of what is happening. But again, currently we don't see any disruptions on the supply chain as we speak right now.
And I'd like to get into some of your forecasts for 2026. We know that they are obviously sometimes vulnerable to some changes, but in 25 we saw sales in China down by 12.5%, in the Americas up by 5.6%, in Europe up by 7.3%. Is that the trend that we're going to see going into 2026? What forecast do you see in each of these key markets? Could you break out? You said that there's also going to be growth in Europe and the United States. You guys didn't give a figure. What kind of growth can we expect there, and what do you expect in China?
Right. Stable. It will be more or less in all the markets comparable to last year. That's why our guidance is on the niveau of this year. But this year we launched our Neue Klasse as well, which went here in Germany to the market just last week. We have really satisfying order intake, and we are very, very content about the future outlook of the Neue Klasse. And that will start this year and will continue next year. So overall, with all markets combined, we will see a rather stable environment overall at BMW. And we don't have to change our strategy. We will respond wherever markets have a demand. And we will respond on the electric side, we will respond on the high performance side, we will respond on the ultra luxury side, and also on the base segment. And that kind of gives us that stability. And neutrality helps. It's just very simple. Neutrality helps here.
Yeah, and we're about a year since we got Liberation Day, the sort of big tariff relief from the Trump administration, or the big tariff reveal, I should say, from the Trump administration. A lot of chaos ensued after that. Now that there is a slightly more stable tariff regime, do you have a clear idea of kind of what this tariff picture looks like going into the United States, the effect that it has on the P&L? And now, basically a year from that, how does that govern your strategy in the United States? Are you now open to the possibility of opening new production lines? How are you thinking about strategy in the United States given the tariffs?
Yeah. On a more global scale, we see more and more protectionist moves, which harms everybody involved. This industry is globally fully connected, and that's unreversible. So any form of protectionism, we have to consider, is that the right path for the future? Concerning your question towards the United States, at this point in time, we pay currently higher tariffs into the United States, 15%, but at the same time, we still pay the remaining 10% taxes, not the 0%, which was part of the Turnberry deal. And our request is, and I make that quite clear also in my discussions in the United States, to bring that down on the European side now to 0%. That would help a lot. But on the other hand, we are kind of protected because our largest plant stands in the United States, and whatever is in the United States, it's kind of naturally protected. Again, in 2025, we were the largest exporter of cars in value from the United States to the rest of the world. And our second demand is that we kind of build up an offset system. Very simply speaking, for every car we export, we can import one. And that would create a lot of stability for jobs on the one side in the United States and also for global business models.